and I was studying about grammar with a gentleman who ended up being a big influence on my life and ended up being my corporate partner until his health concerns, and that was David-Wynn Miller.
And my name is Federal Postal Judge David-Wynn Miller. I punctuate my name with a full colon because it creates a prepositional phrase. I use a hyphen to make my David Wynn a compound fact, and then I follow that with a full colon to identify my surname, which is Miller. So it's for the David Wynn of the Miller family, because full colons are prepositional phrases to express a fact.
And through our studies and through what we had found through trial and error, mainly by myself, in the court systems, we came upon a guise, a ruse that we found to create every citizen on planet Earth and make them a utility and a slave to contract. What I'm going to give closure on today will be the mechanics of how they use those contracts to keep mankind, regardless of race, regardless of faith, regardless of status quo in financial and social status, keep them a slave to that contract from cradle to grave. As a young man, from first to sixth grade, I went to summer school, and I became quite proficient in sentence diagramming. I could comprehend what words were, where they sat in sentence structure through the sentence diagramming, and it's something that I had always kept in the back of my mind. It was something that was kind of entrained in me as a young man. I learned from a Hispanic lady actually she was out of Mexico. Her name was Naomi Cromwell, and she was a teacher at a school that I went to, and she was kind enough to let me go to summer school every summer to continue my studies, because I was fascinated by the English language and how it worked. Years later, come to find out, I ran into my partner, who ended up being my partner, David-Wynn Miller, and we got big into the grammar and how the order of operations flow, and then how it flowed in and out of contract in our usury, in our day-to-day usury of our life.
We created this mathematical interface on grammar to show people you can write a sentence frontwards and you can write it backwards and it has the same value. Here's an example. For the bridge is over the water. I'll say it backwards. For the water is under the bridge. Over and under are opposite prepositions, and both sentences are the same picture.
From our driver's licenses, to our insurance, to our properties on title, to things such as they call the birth certificate.
One of the predominant beliefs in modern culture is that licenses, permits, registrations, and other forms of documentation are required to operate motor vehicles, use public roads, build structures and establishments, engage in free enterprise, and much more. Sadly, these beliefs are based on little to no investigation whatsoever and are false.
And we became cognizant that their location to enforce all this was the courtrooms. This is where they enforced the contracts. And when we started breaking apart the function of that courtroom and the courthouse, it took us into many fields, such as postal, such as law of the flag, such as bailments and timelines for those contracts to come in and out of those courthouses. As we broke those down, or as I broke those down, and became cognizant and gave closure to these foreign judges who were in these courthouses, they started playing their games with me, which means they would come off the bench, sit across the table from me, try to function as my master. I'd have to hit them up with timelines to undo what they did. And they shared a lot of secrets with me within this time frame of 3 years, from 96 actually to 99. 4 years. I apologize. In those secrets, I blew myself up many times. I ended up in jail, not knowing things, because it was merely a capture of the contract and learning the bailments of timelines of how they moved me as a piece of cargo in and out of there. And what they stemmed that from was the birth certificate at my docking on this planet, called in the hospitals, their port of entries. Port being a pronoun, of being an adverb, entry being a negative try. En means no, so it's no try, port of no try. And when we study the syntax, which is the mechanics of the order of operations of how words come together, we developed a numerical cipher code to identify what things made things a fact and what things.
Now we use 0 as a conjunction, and there's 2 conjunctions in the English language. And is a command, and the word or is an option. Now the word, the adverb, we gave a 1 because the adverb is used more than any other word, and the adverb is a modifier. It modifies the speed of which something is going to be modified at. Now the adverb will modify a verb, which is thinking or motion. So when you have a 1 in front of a 2, it's an adverb creating a verb. Now 3 is used for an adjective because an adjective represents color, opinion, and modifier, or modification, which means you're going to change something or try to influence an individual's ability to think by coloring it. If you color something and you change it, you're actually committing perjury because you're injecting your own prejudice or your opinions based on how you're going to describe it.